Crazy week 3, lots of points, few big injuries to talk about. So this is your week 4 waiver wire. I'm Dustin. Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. And like always, plenty to talk about. Real quick though, a couple things. I shoot these before the Monday night game, so keep that in mind. And also thank you to our sponsor, mybookie.ag, the most trusted sports book on the web, where the motto is you play, you win, you get paid. Click on the link in the description, use the promo code SMACK. You get up to 100% sign-up bonus, so check that out. So we'll start with my pickup of the week. Now this is the guy that I think is kind of the most exciting pickup, not necessarily the one that I would pick up out of all the people on this list, and on this list I typically only have people that are owned in about less than 70 to 75% of leagues. So pick of the week, Wendell Smallwood. Darren Sproles tore his ACL and broke his arm on the same play, so not a fun play for Darren Sproles, but it's more than likely just going to be kind of a mess between Blount and Smallwood. Now, if Blount's available in your league, he's owned in about 75% of leagues. I would take Blount over Smallwood because I think Blount gets the goal lines, but Smallwood's going to give us a chance. He's got a chance to show us what he can do. He's shown some flashes. I'm not expecting huge things, but he is the pickup of the week. He is the most exciting pickup. He's going to be the one that everyone's trying to get, but I don't know if you can necessarily throw him right in your lineup, but he does need to be owned just because he has a great opportunity. All right, let's take a look at some other running backs. Jamal Charles, I think he's turning into one of the most interesting handcuffs in the league. He looks good, and CJ Anderson owners, I think, should be a little bit worried just because I think Charles is outplaying Anderson a little bit. I mean, obviously Anderson's had the big week too, and he's definitely the more bruising back, but I just think in terms of per touch, Charles has looked a little bit better, and I just think that just means less carries for Anderson. Anderson's not going away. Charles is still going to need an injury to have huge fantasy value, but the reason I like him as an add is because if Anderson does go down, Charles could be right there as low-end RB1, high-end RB2 range. So I think Charles needs to be owned just because of that reason. I was kind of surprised Duke Johnson's not owned in more leagues, only owned in 55% of leagues. Big week 3. He is going to be a little streaky just because he's going to need the big plays to have big weeks just because he doesn't get enough touches because Crowell's not going anywhere. But I do think Duke Johnson should be owned in more leagues. Chris Johnson only owned in 50% of leagues. Like I said, I'm shooting this before Monday night, so I was just kind of surprised that he was only picked up in 50% of leagues just because, Williams didn't look all that good. I think Chris Johnson definitely has a chance to lead that backfield in touches each week. So, and one thing too, I kind of rank these people in order of where I would pick them up if they were available in my league. So just keep that in mind when I'm going down the list. Let's take a look at some more running backs. I want to talk about Brandon Oliver and Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams, I just think he just needs to be owned in more leagues just because it seems like Montgomery's getting a little nicked up every week and they're using him a ton. I think it's only a matter of time before Montgomery misses, some games. He might not have that major injuries, but I think he will be forced to miss some time this year. So all Montgomery owners, I think, should consider picking up Jamal Williams. And then Brandon Oliver only owned in 5% of leagues. Melvin Gordon getting dinged up, his knee. Not really sure the extent of all that. As of right now, we don't have a ton of clarity on that, but Oliver would probably be the one to pick up. Not a huge upside, but definitely could be a flex option if given the chance to be the starter. Real quick for FanDuel, shout out to our week 3 winner, DMIFSUD, however you say that, won our Beat the Experts challenge, so they're going to win a sweet FS t-shirt. If you want to get in and play against us, click on the link in the description. Sign up if you haven't already. It's a $5 league. All the experts are in there. If you win the same amount of money you would if it was a normal tournament, but you also win a t-shirt, so it's a lot of fun to get in there. Not my best week in that tournament. I did finishing some cash in some other tournaments, but FST wasn't so good this week. But getting to our private game, we've been having a hard time filling the last 20 spots or so. So get in there, $5 game, it's a lot of fun. Let's talk about wide receivers. Eric Decker, he was dropped in a lot of leagues after a slow start. But Tennessee's getting things going, and if you watch any of the preseason stuff, you knew I was a big Tennessee offense fan. They have the pieces. They're figuring it out. I think they've had 70 points in the last 2 weeks. Just that's how much Tennessee scored. So they're figuring it out. It hasn't necessarily been going through Decker, but he's still the one that I think has the most, definitely touchdown potential on that offense in terms of through the air. So I'm not writing off Decker just yet, only owning 65% of leagues. Allen Hurns owning 40% of leagues with Jacksonville. That offense is starting to look a little bit better. Hurns found the end zone. He's slowly kind of turning into, a low-end kind of wide receiver 2-ish, high-end wide receiver 3-ish. I mean, maybe not quite wide receiver 2, but he's proven to be somewhat consistent is all I'm trying to say. And I think at this point he needs to be given a little bit more respect because that Jacksonville offense is turning things around. Devin Funchess is next, only on 25% of leagues with the Benjamin injury. He's going to have to step up with Olsen being out. Funchess is going to have to step up. So that whole offense, there's going to be a ton of targets to go around. We'll figure out how long Benjamin's going to miss, but it looks like it's at least maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Allison for Green Bay is next, only on 10% of leagues. Now he's interesting because, Cobb's already banged up and he missed week 3. That's one of the reasons why Allison had such a big game. But Nelson and his injury history, either one of those two goes down, or if Adams goes down, Allison could have a lot of value. Now he will be inconsistent as long as they're all healthy, but he's proving to be a high upside receiver. Take a look at a few more players. I want to talk about Travis Benjamin out there with the Chargers, only owning 10% of leagues. I wasn't sure how he'd fit in when everyone's healthy out there, but he's definitely carving out a role, and he's proving to be somewhat of a consistent player, getting decent amount of targets each week. So I think he's someone definitely considering deeper leagues, only owning 10% of leagues. Move on to quarterback. I got a couple for you. Watson with Houston. Great game against the Patriots. A lot of amazing plays that he had. And at this point, I think he needs to be close to being in the QB1 discussion. He's only on 15% of leagues, but we've seen enough out of him now, especially with what he can do with his legs. He can help your team, especially in 12-team leagues, something like that. If you're not liking where your quarterback's at, he's someone to consider. And then Blake Bortles owning 15% of leagues as well. Don't forget, a couple years ago, he was a top 10 quarterback. I know it was so ugly last year and it looked bad in the preseason, but Fournette is really helping that offense, and it's possible it gets things going again. I'm not saying Bortles is going to go back to being a top 10 quarterback, but the potential is there, so I think he needs to be considered. Tight end, I got 3 for you. I put all these guys about in the same boat, but this is how I rank them in terms of how I would pick them up if I was looking for a tight end. But when you look at what Hooper's doing and what Hunter Henry are doing in terms of just boom or bust each week, the reason I like these guys is because I love it when my tight end has a floor of 3 catches and 30 yards or something along those lines, but still has the upside of maybe 60 or 70 yards and a touchdown. And I think these 3 guys have that. And when you just look at all the boom or bust tight ends that are out there right now, I think I would rather have one that has a higher floor with maybe not quite as high of a ceiling, but still a pretty high ceiling. 3 defenses for you that I like this week. I like Green Bay. Thursday night game going up against Chicago. Green Bay is only 55% owned. They're at home. The over-under on mybookie.ag is 45.5, and Green Bay is a 7-point favorite. So they're not giving Chicago much love in that one, and I don't think they should. So I like Green Bay's defense. Then Jacksonville and Cincinnati, they're the ones playing the Jets and the Browns. So you got to consider whoever's playing them each week. The Jacksonville line's only 39.5, and the Cincinnati line's only 40. So they're not expecting a lot of points to go around in those. So I like those 3 pick up and play defenses. If you got questions, post them in this video in the comments. We try to answer as many as we can each week. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and get into our FanDuel game, and good luck on the wire this week.